Dr. Wayne Dyer, The Power of Intention. Chapter 3. Connecting to Intention. The law of flotation was not discovered by contemplating the sinking of things, but by contemplating the floating of things, which floated naturally, and then intelligently, asking why they did so. Thomas Troward. Examine this observation by the great mental science practitioner of the early 20th century, Thomas Troward. In the early days of shipbuilding, ships were made of wood, and the reasoning was that wood floats in water and iron sinks. Yet today, ships all over the world are built of iron. As people began studying the law of flotation, it was discovered that anything could float if it's lighter than the mass of liquid it displaces. So today we are able to make iron float by the very same law that makes it sink. Keep this example in mind as you read and apply the contents of this chapter on connecting to all that you are intent to become. The key word here is contemplating, or what you are placing your thoughts on, as you begin utilizing the enormous potential and the power of intention. You must be able to connect to intention, and you can't access and work with intention if you're contemplating the impossibility of being able to intend and manifest. You can't discover the law of co-creation if you're contemplating what's missing. You can't discover the power of awakening if you are contemplating things that are still asleep. The secret to manifesting anything that you desire is your willingness and ability to rely on yourself so that your inner world is in harmony with the power of intention. Every single modern advance that you see and take for granted was created, and creating is what we are doing here in this book, by someone contemplating what they intended to manifest. The way to establish a relationship with spirit and access the power of this creating principle is to continuously contemplate yourself as being surrounded by the conditions you wish to produce. I encourage you to emphasize this idea by underlining the previous sentences both in this book and in your mind. Dwell on the idea of a supreme infinite power producing the results that you desire. This power is the creative power of the universe. It's responsible for everything coming into focus. By trusting it to provide the form and the conditions for its manifestation, you establish a relationship to intention that allows you to be connected for as long as you practice this kind of personal intent. The Wright brothers didn't contemplate the staying on the ground of things. Alexander Graham Bell didn't contemplate the non-communication of things. Thomas Edison did not contemplate the darkness of things. In order to float an idea into a reality, you must be willing to do somersault into being convincible and land on your feet, contemplating what you want instead of what you don't have. You'll then start floating your desires instead of sinking them. The law of manifestation is like the law of flotation, and you must contemplate it working for you instead of contemplating it not working. This is accomplished by establishing a strong connecting link between you and the invisible, formless field of energy, the power of intention. Entering into the spirit of intention. Whatever you intend to create in your life involves generating the same life-giving quality that brings everything into existence. The spirit of anything, the quality that allows it to come into the world of form, is true as a general principle, so why not activate it within you? The power of intention simply awaits your ability to make the connection. We are already established that intention isn't a material substance with measurable physical qualities. As an example of this, think of artists. Their creations aren't merely a function of the quality of the paint, brush, canvas, or any other combination of materials they use. To understand and grasp the creation of a masterpiece, we have to take into account the thoughts and the feelings of the artist. We must know and enter into the movement of the creative mind of the artist in order to understand the creation process. The artist creates something out of nothing. Without the thoughts and feelings of the artist, there would be no art. Is there particular creative mind in contemplation that links to intention to give birth to what we call an artistic creation? This is how the power of intention worked in creating you, someone new, entirely unique, someone out of nothing. Reproducing this in yourself means encountering the creative impulse and knowing that the power of intention is reaching for the realization of all that it feels and that it expressing itself as you. What are you feeling is a function of how you're thinking, what you're contemplating, and how your inner speech is being formulated. If you could tap into the feeling of the power of intention, you would sense that it's ever increasing and confident in itself because its formative power so infallible that it never misses its mark. It's always increasing and creating. The forward movement of spirit is a given. The power of intention yearns toward fuller expressions of life, just as the artist's feeling pour out in fuller expression of his or her ideas and thoughts. Feelings are clues about your destiny and a potential, and they are seeking the full expression of life throughout you. How do you enter into the spirit of intention, which is all about feelings expressing life? You can nurture it by your continual ongoing expectation of infallible spiritual law of increase being a part of your life. We saw it through our imaginary capacity to see higher vibrations, and we heard it in the voice given to it by spiritual masters throughout the ages. It's everywhere. It wants to express life. It's pure love in action. It's confident. And guess what? You are it, but you're forgotten. You need to simplify, trust your ability to cheerfully rely upon spirit to express itself through and for you. Your task is to contemplate the energies of life, love, beauty, and kindness. Every action that is in harmony with this originating principle of intention gives expression to your own power of intention. Your will and your imagination. There is no disputing the existence of your free will. You are being with a mind capable of making choices. Indeed, you are in a continuous state of deliberate choice-making during your life. This isn't about free will versus predetermined destiny, but look carefully at how you're choosing to rely on your ability to will yourself toward whatever you desire. Intention in this book isn't about having a strong desire and backing it up with a pit bull kind of determination. Having a strong will and being filled with resolve to accomplish inner goals is asking ego to be the guiding force in your life. I will do this thing. I will never be stupid. I will never give up. These are admirable traits, but they won't reconnect you to intention. Your willpower is so much less effective than your imagination, which is your link to the power of intention. Imagination is the movement of the universal mind within you. Your imagination creates the inner picture that allows you to participate in the act of creation. It's the invisible connecting link to manifesting your own destiny. Try to imagine willing yourself to do something that your imagination doesn't want you to do. Your will is the ego part of you that believes you're separate from others, separate from what you would like to accomplish or have, and separate from God. It also believes that you are your acquisitions, achievements, and accolades. This ego will wants you to constantly acquire evidence of your importance. It pushes you toward proving your superiority and acquiring things you're willing to chase after with hyper dedication and resolve. On the other hand, your imagination is the concept of the spirit within you. It's the God within you. Read William Blake's description of imagination. Blake believed that with imagination, we have the power to be anything we desire to be. I rest not from my great task, to open the eternal worlds, to open the mortal eyes of men, inwards into the worlds of thought, into eternity, ever expanding, in the bosom of God, the human imagination. From Jerusalem by William Blake. Now go back to the idea of willing yourself to do something when your imagination says no. An example of a fire walk comes to my mind. You can stare at those hot coals and will yourself to walk across them, and then if you rely exclusively on your willpower, you'll end up with severe burns and blisters. But if you imagine yourself divinely protected, in Blake worlds, in the bosom of God, and can you see yourself in your imagination able to be something beyond your body, you can accomplish the fire walk unscathed. As you imagine yourself impervious to the heat of the red-hot coals, you begin to feel yourself as something beyond your body. You visualize yourself as stronger than the fire. Your inner picture of purity and protection lets you will yourself to walk across the coals. It's your imagination that allows you to be safe. Without it, you'll be scorched. I recall imagining myself being able to complete my first marathon run of 26 plus miles. It wasn't my will that got me through those 3.5 hours of continuous running. It was my inner imagination. I tuned into it and then allowed my body to be pushed to its limit throughout my will. Without that image, no amount of will would have been sufficient for me to complete the endeavor. And so it is with everything. Willing yourself to be happy, successful, wealthy, number one, famous, the top salesperson, or the richest person in your community are ideas born of the ego and its obsessive self-absorption. In the name of this willpower, people run routes hold over anyone who gets in their way, cheating, stealing, and deceiving to accomplish their personal intention. Yet these kinds of practices will ultimately lead to disaster. You may achieve the physical goal of your individual intention. However, your imagination, that inner place where you do all of your living, won't allow you to feel peaceful. I've used this power of imagination over my will in the production of all of my life's work. For instance, I see myself as having already completed this book. This thinking from the end causes me to behave as if all that I like to create is already here. My credo is, imagine myself to be and I shall be, and it's an image that I keep within me at all times. I don't complete a book because I have a strong will to do so. That would mean I believe that it's me, the body named Wayne Dyer, that's doing all of this, whereas my imagination has no physical boundaries and no name called Wayne Dyer. My imagination is my very own chip of old block of intention. It provides what I need. It allows me to sit here and write. It guides my pen in my hand and fills in all the blanks. I, Wayne Dyer, I'm not willing this book into the reality. My picture of it's so clear and precise that it manifests itself. In ancient times, a divine being named Hermes wrote, "That which is manifested. That which has been or shall be is unmanifested, but not dead. For soul, the eternal activity of God, animates all things." These are significant words to ponder as you think about reconnecting to intention and gaining the power to create anything that's in your imagination. You, your body, and your ego do not intend, do not create, do not animate anything in your life. Set your ego aside. by all means, have an aim in life and be full of determination, but rid yourself of a delusion that you are the one who is going to manifest your heart's desire throughout your will. It's your imagination that I want you to focus on throughout the reading of this book, and view all of your determined goals and activities as functions of your imagination working, guiding, encouraging, and even pushing you in the direction that intention had you for a while you were sitting still in unmanifested state. You're looking for a vibration match up of your imagination and the source of all creation. Your imagination allows you the fabulous luxury of thinking from the end. There's no stopping anyone who can think from the end. You create the means of surmount limitations in connection with your desires. In imagination, dwell on the end, fully confident that it's there in the material world and that you can use the ingredients of the all creative source to make it tangible. Since the source of everything proceeds with grace and its alluring 7 faces, then you too shall use this method, and only this method, to co-create all that you were intended to be. Become indifferent to doubt and to the call of your will. Remain confident that through the continued reliance on your imagination, your assumptions are materializing into reality. Reconnecting to intention involves expressing the same 7 faces that the all-creating source uses to bring the unmanifest into the manifest. If imagination works for God, then surely it works for you too. Throughout imagination, God imagines everything into reality. This is your new strategy as well. Applying the 7 phases for connecting to intention. Having been in the business of human development for most of my life, the question I most frequently hear is, how do I go about getting what I want? At this juncture of my life, as I sit here writing this book, my response is, if you become what you think about, and what you think about is getting what you want, then you'll stay in the state of wanting. So the answers to how to get what you want is to reframe the question to, how do I go about getting what I intend to create? My answer to that question is in the remaining pages of this chapter, but my short answer is this. You get what you intend to create by being in harmony with the power of intention, which is responsible for all creation. Become just like intention, and you'll co-create all that you contemplate. When you become one with attention, you are transcending the ego mind and becoming the universal all-creative mind. John Randolph Price writes in Spiritual Philosophy for the New World, "Until you transcend the ego, you can do nothing but add to this insanity of the world." That statement should delight you rather than create despair, for it removes the burden from your shoulders. Begin to remove that ego burden from your shoulders and reconnect to intention. When you lay your ego aside and return to that from which you originally emanated, you'll begin to immediately see the power of intention working with, for, and throughout you in a multitude of ways. Here are those 7 phases revisited to help you to begin to make them a part of your life. Be creative. Being creative means trusting your own purpose and having an attitude of unbending intent in your daily thoughts and activities. Staying creative means giving form to your personal intentions. A way to start giving them form is to literally put them in writing. For instance, in my writing space here on Maui, I've written out my intentions, and here are a few of them that stare at me each day as I write. My intention for all my activities to be directed by Spirit. My intention is to love and radiate my love to my writing and any who might read these words. My intention is to trust in what comes through me and to be a vehicle of the Spirit judging none of it. My intention is to recognize the Spirit as my source and to detach from my ego. My intention is to do all that I can to elevate the collective consciousness to be more closely in rapport with the Spirit of the originating supreme power of intention. To express your creativity and put your own intentions into the world of the manifest, I recommend that you practice japa or japa, a technique first offered by the ancient Vedas. Japa meditation is the repetition of the sound of the names of God while simultaneously focusing on what you intend to manifest. Repeating the sound within the name of God while asking for what you want generates creative energy to manifest your desires. And your desires are the movement of the universal mind within you. Now, you may be skeptical about the feasibility of such an undertaking. Well, I ask you to open yourself to this idea of japa as an expression of your creative link to intention. I won't describe the method in depth here because I have written about it in a small book with an accompanying CD by Hay House called Getting in the Gap, Making Conscious Contact with the God Throughout Meditation. For now, just now that I consider meditating and practicing japa essential in the quest to realign yourself with the power of intention. That power is creation, and you need to be in your own unique state of creativity to collaborate with the power of intention. Meditation of japa are surefire ways to do so. Be kind. A fundamental attribute of the supreme originating power is kindness. All that's manifested is brought here to thrive. It takes a kindly power to want what it creates to thrive and multiply. Were this not the case, then all that's created would be destroyed by the same power that created it. In order to reconnect to intention, you must be on the same kindness wavelength as intention itself. Make an effort to live in cheerful kindness. It's a much higher energy than sadness or malevolence, and it makes the manifestation of your desires possible. It's through giving that we receive. It's through acts of kindness directed toward others that our immune systems are strengthened and even our serotonin levels increased. Low energy thoughts that weaken us fall into the realm of shame, anger, hatred, judgment, and fear. Each of these inner thoughts weakens us and inhibits us from attracting into our lives what we desire. If we become what we think about, and what we think about is what's wrong with the world and how angry and ashamed and fearful we are, it stands to reason that we all act on those unkind thoughts and become what we are thinking about. When you think, feel, and act kindly, you give yourself the opportunity to be like the power of intention. When you're thinking and acting otherwise, you've left the field of intention. You have assured yourself of feeling cheated by all creative spirit of intent. Kindness toward yourself. Think of yourself like this. There is a universal intelligence subsisting throughout nature, inherent in every one of its manifestations. You are one of those manifestations. You are a piece of this universal intelligence, a slice of God, if you will. Be good to God, since all that God created was good. Be good to yourself. You are God manifested, and that's the reason enough to treat yourself kindly. Remind yourself that you want to be kind to yourself in all the choices that you make about your daily life. Treat yourself with kindness when you eat, exercise, play, work, love, and everything else. Treating yourself kindly will hasten your ability to connect to intention. Kindness toward others. A basic tenet of getting along and being happy, as well as enlisting the assistance of others toward achieving all that you want to attract is that people want to help you and do things for you. When you're kind to others, you receive kindness in return. A boss who's unkind gets very little cooperation from his employees. Being unkind with children makes them want to get even better than help you out. Kindness given is kindness returned. If you wish to connect to intention and become someone who achieves all of your objectives in life, you're going to need the assistance of a multitude of folks. By practicing extending kindness everywhere, you'll find support showing up in ways that you could never have predicted. This idea of extending kindness is particularly relevant in how you deal with people who are hopeless, elderly, mentally challenged, poor, disabled, and so on. These people are all part of God's perfection. They too have a divine purpose. And since all of us are connected to each other throughout spirit, their purpose and intent is also connected to you. Here is a brief story that will teach you at the heart level. It suggests that those whom we met, who are less than able to care themselves, may have come here to teach us something about the perfection of intention. Read it and know that this kind of thinking, feeling, and behavior empowers you to connect to intention throughout matching its kindness within your own. In Brooklyn, New York, CHUSH is a school that caters to learning disabled children. Some children remain in CHUSH for their entire school career, while others can be mainstreamed into conventional schools. At the CHUSH fundraiser dinner, the father of a CHUSH child delivered a speech that would never be forgotten by all who attended. After extolling the school and its dedicated staff, he cried out, "Where is the perfection in my son Shia? Everything God does is done with a perfection, but my child cannot understand things as other children do. My child cannot remember facts and figures as other children do. Where is God's perfection?" The audience was shocked by the question, pained by the father's anguish, and stilled by the piercing query. "I believe," the father answered, "that when God brings a child like this into the world, the perfection that he seeks is in the way people react to this child." He then told the following story about his son, Shia. One afternoon, Shia and his father walked past a park where some boys Shia knew were playing baseball. Shia asked, "Do you think they'll let me play?" Shia's father knew that his son was not all athletic and then the most boys would not want him on their team. But Shia's father understood that if his son was chosen to play, it would give him a sense of belonging. Shia's father approached one of the boys on the field and asked if Shia could play. The boy looked around for guidance from his teammates. Getting none, he took matters in his own hands and said, "We're losing by 6 runs, and the game is in the 8th inning. I guess he can be on our team, and we will try to put him up to bat in the 9th inning." Shia's father was ecstatic as Shia smiled broadly. Shia was told to put on a glove and go out to play in the center field. In the bottom of the 8th inning, Shia's team scored a few runs, but was still behind by 3. In the bottom of the 9th inning, Shia's team scored again and now had 2 outs and the bases loaded. With the potential winning run on the base, Shia was scheduled to be up. Would B team actually let Shia bat at this juncture and give away their chance to win the game? Surprisingly, Shia was given the bat. Everyone knew that it was all but impossible because Shia didn't even know how to hold the bat properly, let alone hit with it. However, as Shia stepped up to the plate, the pitcher moved a few steps to lob the ball in softly so Shia could at least be able to make contact. The first pitch came in and Shia swung clumsily and missed. One of Shia's teammates came up to Shia, and together they held the bat and faced the pitcher, waiting for the next pitch. The pitcher again took a few steps forward to toss the ball softly toward Shia. As the pitch came in, Shia and his teammate swung the bat, and together they hit a slow ground ball to the pitcher. The pitcher picked up the soft grounder and could easily have thrown the ball to the first baseman. Shia would have been out, and that would have ended the game. Instead, the pitcher took the ball and threw it on a high arc to right field, far beyond the reach of the first baseman. Everyone started yelling, "Shia, run to first, run to first." Never in his life had Shia run to first. He scampered down the baseline, wide-eyed and startled. By the time he reached first base, the right fielder had the ball. He could have thrown the ball to a second baseman who would tag out Shia, who was still running. But the right fielder understood what the pitcher's intentions were, so he threw the ball high and far over the third baseman's head. Everyone yelled, "Run to second! Run to second!" Shia ran toward second base as the runners ahead of him deliriously circled the base toward home. As Shia reached second base, the opposing shortstop ran to him, turned him into the direction of the third base and shouted, "Run to third!" As Shia rounded third, the boys from both teams ran behind him screaming, "Shia, run home!" Shia ran home, stepped on the home plate, and all 18 boys lifted him on their shoulders and made him to a hero, as he had just hit the grand slam and won the game for his team. "That day," said the father softly with tears now rolling down his face, "those 18 boys reached their level of God's perfection." If you don't feel a tug in your heart and a tear in your eye after reading this story, then it's unlikely that you'll ever know the magic of connecting back to the kindness of the supreme of all originating source. Kindness toward all of life. In the ancient teachings of Patanjali, we are reminded that all of living creatures are impacted dramatically by those who remain steadfast in the absence of thoughts of harm directing outward. Practice kindness toward all animals, tiny and huge, the entire kingdom of life on earth, such as forests, deserts, the beaches, and all that has the essence of life pulsating within it. You can't reconnect to your source and know the power of intention in your life without the assistance of the environment. You're connected to this environment. Without gravity, you can't walk. Without the water, you can't live a day. Without the forests, the sky, the atmosphere, the vegetation, the minerals, all of it, your desire to manifest and reach intention is meaningless. Extend thoughts of kindness everywhere. Practice kindness toward earth by picking up a piece of litter that's on your path, or saying a silent prayer of gratitude for the existence of rain, the color of flowers, or even the paper you hold in your hand that was donated by the tree. The universe responds in kind to what you elect to radiate outward. If you say with kindness in your voice and in your heart, "How may I serve you?" the universe response will be, "How may I serve you as well?" It's attractor energy. It's the spirit of cooperation with all of life that emerges from the essence of intention. And this spirit of kindness is one that you must learn to match if connecting back to intention is your desire. My daughter Summer has written from her experience about how small acts of kindness go a long way. I was getting off the turnpike one rainy afternoon and pulled up to toll booth while fumbling throughout my purse. The woman smiled at me and said, "The car before you just paid your toll." I told her I was traveling alone and extended my money. She replied, "Yes, the man instructed me to tell the next person who came to my booth to have a brighter day." That small act of kindness did give me a brighter day. I felt so moved by someone I would never know. I began to wonder how I could brighten someone else's day. I called my best friend and told her about my paid toll. She said she never thought of doing that, but it was a great idea. She goes to the University of Kentucky and decided to pay for the person behind her every day on her way to school as she exits the toll road. I laughed at her sincerely. "You think I'm kidding," she said, "but like you said, it's only 50 cents. As we hung up, I wondered if the man who paid my toll ever fathomed that his thoughtfulness would travel to Kentucky. I had an opportunity to extend kindness at the supermarket one day. I had my cart filled to the top with food that my roommate and I would share over the next 2 weeks. The woman behind me had an antsy toddler and not nearly as much in her cart as I had. I said to her, "Why don't you go first? You don't have as much as I do." The woman looked at me as if I just sprouted extra limbs or something. She replied, "Thank you so much. I haven't seen many people around here to be thoughtful of another person. We moved here from Virginia and are considering moving back because we are questioning whether this is the right place to raise our 3 children." Then she told me that she was about ready to give up and move back home, even thought it would create a huge financial strain on her family. She said, "I promised myself if I didn't see a sign by the end of the day, I was going to demand that we are going back to Virginia. You are my sign." She thanked me again, smiling as she left the store. I was flabbergasted, realizing that such a small gesture had the impact of a whole family. The clerk said as she was checking me out, "You know what, girl? You just made my day." I walked out smiling, wondering how many people my act of kindness would affect. The other day I was getting a breakfast sandwich and a coffee and thought my coworkers might like some donuts. The 4 guys I work with at the stables live in the little apartments on the front of the barns. None of them has a car, but they share a bike. I explained to them that the donuts were for them. The look of gratitude on each of their faces was rewarding in an immeasurable way. I haven't worked there all that long, and I think that those 12 small donuts helped break the ice a little bit. My small act of kindness turned into something huge as the week went on. We started looking out for another more carefully and working as a team. Be love. Ponder these words thoughtfully. God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in me, and I in him. That is God talking, so to speak. Keeping in mind the central theme of this chapter, and in fact this entire book, that you must learn to be like the energy that allow you to be in the first place, then being in a state of love is absolutely necessary for you to reconnect to intention. You were intended out of love. You must be love in order to intend. Volumes have been written about love, and still we have as many definitions for this world as we have people to offer them. For the purpose of this chapter, I would like you to think about love in the following 2 ways. Love is cooperation rather than competition. What I would like you to able to experience right here in a physical form on a planet Earth is the essence of the spiritual plane. If this were possible, it would mean that your very life is a manifestation of love. Were it is to be true for you, you would see all of living together in harmony and cooperating with each other. You'd sense the power of intention that originates. All life cooperates with all other life forms to ensure growth and survival. You'd know that we all share the same life force, and that the same invisible intelligence that beats my heart and your heart beats the heart of everyone on the planet. Life is the force behind the will of God. I'm not suggesting that kind of love that we define as an affection or sentiment, nor is this kind of love a feeling that seeks to please and press favors on others. Imagine a kind of love that is a power of intention the very energy that is the case behind of all creation. Is the spiritual vibration that carries divine intentions from formless to concentrate expression. It creates new form, changes matter, vivifies of all things, and holds the cosmos together beyond time and space. It's in every one of us. It's what God is. I recommend you pour your love into your immediate environment and hold this practice on an hourly basis if possible. Remove all your unloving thoughts from your mind and practice kindness in all of your thoughts, words, and actions. Cultivate this love in your immediate circle of acquaintances and family, and ultimately it will expand to your community and globally as well. Extend this love deliberately to those you feel have harmed you in a way or caused you to experience suffering. The more you can extend this love, the closer you come to being love. And it's in the beginnings of love that intention is reached and manifestation flourish. Be beauty, Emily Dickinson wrote. Beauty is not caused, it is. As you awaken to your divine nature, you'll begin to appreciate beauty in everything you see, touch, and experience. Beauty and truth are synonymous, as you read earlier in John Catt's famous observation in Ode on a Grecian urn. Beauty is truth, truth, beauty. This means, of course, that the creative spirit brings things in the world of boundaries to thrive and flourish and expand. And it wouldn't do so were it not infatuated with the beauty of every manifested creature, including you. Thus, to come back into conscious contact with your source, so as to regain the power of your source, is to look for and experience beauty in all of your undertakings. Life, truth, beauty. These are all symbols for same thing, an aspect of God force. When you lose this awareness, you lose the possibility of connecting to intention. You were brought into this world form, that which perceived you as an expression of beauty. It couldn't have done so if it thought you to be otherwise, for it has the power to create. It also possesses the power not to do so. The choice to do so is predicted on the supposition that you are an expression of love and beauty. This is true for everything and everyone that emanates from the power of intention. Here is a favorite story of mine that illustrates appreciating beauty where once you didn't. It was told by Swami Jivasananda, better known as Guru Maya, in her beautiful book, Kindle My Heart. There was a man who did not like his in-laws because he felt they took up more space in his house than they should. He went to a teacher who lived nearby, so he had heard a lot about him, and he said, "Please do something. I cannot bear my in-laws anymore. I love my wife, but my in-laws never. They take up so much space in the house. Somehow I feel they're always in my way." The teacher asked him, "Do you have some chickens?" "Yes, I do," he said. "Then put your old chickens inside of the house." He did what the teacher said, and then he went back to him. The teacher asked, "Problem solved?" He said, "No, it's worse." "Do you have any sheep?" "Yes." "Bring all the sheep inside." He did so and returned to the teacher. "Problem solved?" "No, it's getting worse." "Do you have a dog?" "Yes, I have several." "Take all those dogs into the house." Finally, the man ran back to the teacher and said, "I came to you for help, but you are making my life worse than ever." The teacher said to him, "Now send all the chickens, sheep, and dogs back outside." The man went home and emptied the house of all the animals. There was so much space. He went back to the teacher. Thank you, he said. "You have solved all my problems." Be ever expansive. The next time you see a garden full of flowers, observe the flowers that are alive and compare them to the flowers that you believe are dead. What's the difference? The dried up, dead flowers are no longer growing, while the alive flowers are indeed still growing. The all-emerging universal force that intended you into beginners and commences all life, it's always growing and perpetually expanding. As with all 7 of these phases of intention, by reason of its universality, it must have a common nature within yours. By being in an ever-expanding state and growing intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually, you are identifying with the universal mind. By staying in a state of readiness in which we are not attached to what you used to think to or be, and by thinking from to end and staying open to receiving divine guidance, you abide by the law of growth and are receptive to the power of intention. Be abundant. Intention is endlessly abundant. There is no scarcity in the universal, invisible world of spirit. The cosmos itself is without end. How could there be an end to the universe? What would be at the end? A wall? So how thick is the wall? And what's on the other side of it? As you contemplate connecting to intention, know in your heart that any attitude you have that reflects a scarcity consciousness would hold you back. A reminder here is in order. You must match intentions, attributes with your own in order to capitalize on those powers in your life. Abundance is what God's kingdom is about. Imagine God thinking, I can't produce any more oxygen today. I'm just too tired. This universe is big enough already. I think I'll erect that wall and bring the expansion thing to halt. Impossible. You emerged from a consciousness that was in its unlimited. So what's to prevent you from rejoining the limitless awareness in your mind and holding on to those pictures regardless of what goes before you? What prevents you in the conditioning you have been exposed to during your life, which you can change today, in the next few minutes, if you so desire? When you shift to an abundance mindset, you repeat to yourself over and over again that you are unlimited because you emanated from the inexhaustible supply of intention. As this picture solidifies, you begin to act on this attitude of unbending intent. There is no other possibility. We become what we think about, and as Emerson reminded us, the ancestor to every action is a thought. As these thoughts of plenitude and excessive sufficiency become your way of thinking, the all-creating force to which you're always connected will begin to work with you in a harmony with your thoughts, just as it worked with you in a harmony with your thoughts of scarcity. If you think you can't manifest abundance into your life, you'll see intention agreeing with you and assisting you in the full fulfillment of mega expectations. I seem to have arrived into this world fully connected to the abundance attributes of the spiritual world from which I emanated. As a child growing up in foster homes with poverty consciousness all around me, I was the richest kid in the orphanage, so to speak. I always thought I could have money jingling in my pocket. I pictured it there and consequently act on that picture. I would collect soda pop bottles, shovel snow, bag groceries, cut lawns, carry out people's ashes from their coal furnaces, clean up yards, paint fences, babysit, deliver newspapers, and on and on. And always the universal force of abundance worked with me in providing opportunities. As a snowstorm was a giant blessing for me, so too were discarded bottles by side of the road and little old ladies who needed help carrying the groceries to their automobiles. Today, over a half century later, I still have that abundance mentality. I have never been without several jobs at a time throughout many economic slumps over my lifetime. I made large amounts of money as a school teacher by starting a driver education business after school hours. I began a lecture series in Port Washington, New York, on Monday evenings for 30 or so local residents to supplement my income as a professor at St. John University, and that Monday night series became an audience of over 1,000 people in the high school auditorium. Each lecture was tape recorded by a staff member, and those tapes led to the outline for my first book to the public, which was called Your Erroneous Zones. One of the attendees was the wife of a literary agent in New York City who encouraged him to contact me about writing a book. That man, Arthur Pine, became like a father to me and helped me to meet key publishing people in New York. And the same story of unlimited thinking goes on and on. I saw the book from the end becoming a tool for everyone in the country and proceed to go to every large city in America to tell people about it. The universal spirit has always worked with me in bringing my thoughts of unlimited abundance into my life. The right people would magically appear. The right break would come along. The help I needed would seemingly manifest out of nowhere. And in a sense, I'm still collecting pop bottles, shoveling the snow, and carrying out the groceries for little old ladies today. My vision hasn't changed, although the playing field is enlarged. It's all about having an inner picture of abundance, thinking in unlimited ways, being open to the guidance that intention provides when you are in a state of rapport with it, and then being in a state of ecstatic gratitude and awe for how this whole thing works. Every time I see a coin on the street, I stop, pick it up, put it in my pocket, and say out loud, "Thank you, God, for the symbol of abundance that keeps flowing into my life." Never once have I asked, "Why only a penny, God? You know I need a lot more than that." Today I arise at 4 a.m. with knowing that my writing will complete what I have already envisioned in the contemplation of my imagination. The writing flows and the letters arrive from intentions manifest abundance, urging me to read a particular book or to talk to a unique individual, and I know that is all working in perfect, abundant unity. The phone rings. What I need to hear is resonating in my ear. I get up to get a glass of water, and my eyes fall on a book that's been on my shelf for 20 years, but this time I'm compelled to pick it up. I open it, and I'm once again being directed by spirit willingness to assist and guide me as long as I stay in harmony with it. It goes on, and I'm reminded of Jalaluddin Rumi's poetic words from 800 years ago. Sell your cleverness and purchase bewilderment. Be receptive. The universal mind is ready to respond to anyone who recognizes their true relationship to it. It will reproduce whatever conception of itself you impress upon it. In other words, it's receptive to all who remain in harmony with it and stay in a relationship of reverence for it. The issue becomes a question of your receptivity to the power of intention. Stay connected and know you'll receive all that this power is capable of offering. Take it on by yourself as a separate from the universal mind, and you remain internally disconnected. The nature of the universal mind is peaceful. It isn't receptive to force or violence. It works on its own time and rhythm, allowing everything to emanate by and by. It is in no hurry because it's outside of time. It's always in the eternal now. Try getting down on your hands and knees and hurrying along a tiny tomato plant sprout. Universal Spirit is at work peacefully, and your attempts to rush it or tug new life into full creative flower will destroy the entire process. Being receptive means allowing your senior partner to handle your life for you. I accept the guidance and assistance of the same force that created me. I let go of my ego, and I trust in this wisdom to move at its own peaceful pace. I make no demands on it. This is how the all-creating field of intention creates. This is how you must think in order to reconnect to your source. You practice meditation because it allows you to receive the inner knowing of making conscious contact with God. By being peaceful, quiet, and receptive, you pattern yourself in the image of God and you regain the power of your source. This is what this chapter, and indeed this entire book, is all about. That is tapping into the essence of originating spirit, emulating the attributes of the creative force of intention, and manifesting into your life anything that you desire that's consistent with the universal mind, which is creativity, kindness, love, beauty, expansion, abundance, and peaceful receptivity. A beautiful woman born in India in 1923 named Sri Mataji Nirmala Devi arrived here on earth in a fully realized state and lived in the ashram of Mahatma Gandhi, who often consulted her on spiritual questions. She spent her life working for peace and discovered a simple method through which all people can receive their self-realization. She teaches Sahaya Yoga and has never charged for this instruction. She emphasized the following points, which are a perfect summary on this chapter on connecting to intention. You cannot know the meaning of your life until you are connected to the power that created you. You are not this body, you are not this mind, you are the spirit. This is the greatest truth. You have to know your spirit, for without it, knowing your spirit, you cannot know the truth. Meditation is the only way you can grow. There is no other way out, because when you meditate, you are in silence. You are in thoughtless awareness. Then the growth of awareness takes place. Connect to the power that created you. You know that you are that power. Commune with that power intimately and meditate to allow that growth of awareness to take place. A great summary indeed from a fully realized being, no less. 5 suggestions for implementing the ideas of this chapter. Number 1. To realize your desires, match them with your inner speech. Keep all inner talk focused on good reports and good results. Your inner speech mirrors your imagination, and your imagination is your connecting link to spirit. If your inner speech is in conflict with your desires, your inner voice will win. So if you match desires with inner speech, those desires will ultimately be realized. Number 2. Think from the end. That is, assume within yourself the feeling of the wish being fulfilled, and keep this vision regardless of the obstacles that emerge. Eventually, you'll act on this end thinking, and the spirit of creation will collaborate with you. Number 3. To reach a state of impeccability, you need to practice unbending intent. This will match you up with the unbending intent of the all-creative universal mind. For example, if I set out to write a book, I keep a solid picture of the completed book in my mind, and I refuse to let that intention disappear. There's nothing that can keep me from that intention being fulfilled. Some say that I have great discipline, but I know otherwise. My unbending intent won't allow for anything but its completion to be expressed. I'm pushed, prodded, and propelled, and finally, almost mystically attracted to my writing space. All walking and sleeping thoughts are focused on this picture, and I never lack for being in state of awe at how it all comes together. Number 4. Copy the 7 phases of intention on the 3x5 cards. Have them laminated and place them in crucial locations that you must look at each day. They'll serve as reminders for you to stay in a relationship with the originating spirit. You want a relationship of camaraderie to exist with intention. The 7 reminders strategically placed around your living and working environment will do that just for you. Number 5. Always keep the thought of God's abundance in mind. If any other thought comes, replace it with that of God's abundance. Remind yourself every day that universe can be misery. It can be wanting. It holds nothing but abundance, or as St. Paul stated so perfectly, God is able to provide you with every blessing in abundance. Repeat these ideas in abundance until they radiate as your inner truth. This concludes the steps for connecting to intention. But before you make this somersault into the inconceivable, I urge you to examine any and all self-imposed obstacles that need to be challenged and eradicated as you work anew at living, at breathing this power of intention that was placed in your heart before a heart was even formed. As William Penn put it, those people who are not governed by God will be ruled by tyrants. Remember, as you read on, that those tyrants are often the self-imposed roadblocks of your lowell self at work. End of chapter 3.